The classroom was silent except for the sound of chalk scratching against the blackboard. The teacher, a strict man with sharp glasses, looked around with a faint smirk. He had just written a complex calculus problem on the board, one that even the top students in the class would struggle with. His eyes landed on a quiet girl sitting in the back, her head slightly down as she scribbled notes. She wasn't the loudest or the most outspoken, but she had a sharp mind that often went unnoticed. The teacher cleared his throat. "Since no one seems eager to solve this, let's see if our quiet genius in the back can handle it," he said, his tone dripping with sarcasm. A few students snickered, while others shifted uncomfortably. It wasn't the first time he had singled her out, trying to embarrass her for being different. The girl looked up, her expression calm but her fingers tightening around her pencil. She wasn't the type to show off, but something about the way he challenged her, like he expected her to fail, made her blood boil. Without a word, she stood up and walked to the board. The class watched in silence as she picked up the chalk, staring at the problem for a few seconds. The teacher crossed his arms, waiting for her to admit defeat. But then, her hands started moving. Numbers, symbols, and equations flowed effortlessly as she broke down the problem step by step. The snickers died down. Even the teacher's smirk faded as he watched her solve it, not just correctly, but with a method he hadn't even taught yet. By the time she finished, the entire class was staring in disbelief. She turned to the teacher, her voice steady. "Is this what you wanted?" The room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. The teacher opened his mouth but couldn't find the words. For the first time, he had no clever comeback, no way to twist the situation. The girl returned to her seat, her heart pounding but her face calm. This wasn't just about solving a math problem, it was about proving that underestimating someone could be the biggest mistake of all. Little did anyone know, this was just the beginning. The bell rang, signaling the end of class, but the tension in the room lingered. Students packed their bags quickly, stealing glances at the quiet girl who had just humbled the teacher. Some whispered behind their hands, while others shot her looks of admiration. She kept her eyes down, pretending not to notice, but her fingers trembled slightly as she stuffed her notebook into her bag. The teacher stood frozen at his desk, staring at the solved equation on the board like it was a ghost. His face was unreadable, somewhere between shock and irritation. He had expected her to fail, to stutter, to give up. But she hadn't. And now, the entire class had seen it. As she walked out, a boy from the front row, one of the so-called smart kids, blocked her path. "How'd you do that?" he asked, his voice a mix of curiosity and disbelief. She shrugged. "I just understood it." He frowned. "But he never taught us that method." She didn't answer. The truth was, she had spent countless nights studying ahead, reading old textbooks, and watching online lectures. Math made sense to her in a way people didn't. Numbers didn't judge her. Equations didn't laugh at her. A hand suddenly clapped her shoulder. That was amazing. Another girl grinned at her, eyes bright. I've never seen him speechless before. She managed a small smile but didn't say much. Compliments made her uneasy. She wasn't used to attention, good or bad. Meanwhile, at the teacher's desk, a colleague leaned in. "You all right? Look like you've seen a ghost." The teacher snapped out of his daze. "She shouldn't have been able to solve that," he muttered. His colleague raised an eyebrow. "Maybe you underestimated her." The word stung. He had spent years building a reputation as the toughest, smartest math teacher in the school. And now, a quiet girl in the back row had just exposed a crack in that image. Later that evening, the girl sat alone in her small bedroom, her calculus book open. The adrenaline from earlier had faded, leaving behind a hollow feeling. She should have felt proud, but instead, she just felt tired. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Did you really solve it by yourself?" She frowned. Who was this? Another message popped up, or did you cheat? Her stomach dropped. The girl stared at her phone, the anonymous message burning into her thoughts. Or did you cheat? The words felt like a slap. She quickly typed back, "Who is this?" but no reply came. Her fingers hovered over the screen before she finally locked her phone and tossed it onto her bed. The next morning, the school halls felt different. Whispers followed her as she walked to class. Some students looked at her with curiosity, others with suspicion. A group of boys near the lockers stopped talking when she passed, only to start up again in hushed tones the moment she was out of earshot. When she entered the math classroom, the air grew tense. The teacher didn't look at her. Instead, he busied himself with papers, his jaw tight. The blackboard from yesterday had been wiped clean, no trace of the problem, no evidence of what had happened. The same boy from before, the one who had questioned her, leaned over as she took her seat. "People are saying you looked up the answer online," he muttered. Her stomach twisted. "That's not true." He shrugged. "I'm just telling you what's going around." Before she could respond, the teacher clapped his hands. "Open your textbooks to page 147, he said, his voice colder than usual. "Today, we're reviewing limits, properly." The emphasis on "properly" felt like a jab. The lesson was painfully slow, as if the teacher was making sure no one could accuse him of skipping steps. Every now and then, his eyes flicked toward her, watching. Waiting. At lunch, she sat alone at a corner table, picking at her food. The girl who had cheered for her yesterday hesitated before sitting across from her. "You okay?" She nodded, but her voice came out quiet. "People think I cheated." The girl rolled her eyes. "Ignore them. They're just mad because you showed them up." "But why does it matter?" she asked, frustration creeping in. "It's just math." "Because people don't like being wrong," the girl said simply. "Especially him." She nodded toward the front of the cafeteria, where the math teacher stood talking to another faculty member. His gaze drifted toward their table before he quickly looked away. By the end of the day, the rumors had spread further. Someone had posted about her in a school group chat, "No way she solved that herself." Teacher probably gave her the answer ahead of time. She wanted to scream. To prove them wrong. But how? Then, as she packed up her last notebook, a folded slip of paper fell out of her locker. She unfolded it, heart pounding. "If you're really that good, solve this." Beneath it was another calculus problem, harder than the last one. And unsigned. The girl stared at the unsigned note, her pulse quickening. The problem scribbled on it was even more complex than the one from class, something that looked like it belonged in a university-level math competition, not a high school hallway. Her first instinct was to crumple it up and throw it away. But the challenge in those words, "if you're really that good," made her fingers tighten around the paper instead. That night, she spread the note across her desk, her notebook open beside it. The problem was brutal, but not impossible. She worked late into the night, erasing and rewriting, her forehead creasing in concentration. Around 2 a.m., she finally cracked it. The solution flowed neatly onto the page, each step precise. She sat back, exhaling. But then came the real question, what now? The next morning, she arrived early to school, her solved problem folded in her pocket. She didn't know who had left the note, but she had a suspicion. The math teacher's classroom was empty, the lights still off. Glancing around, she taped her solution to the center of the door where anyone walking by would see it. No name, no explanation, just the answer, clear as daylight. She slipped away before anyone noticed. By first period, the hallway outside the math room was buzzing. A small crowd had gathered around the door, murmuring and pointing. "Who put this here? This is insane, did you see the problem it's solving? No way a student did this." The girl kept her head down as she walked past, but her chest burned with quiet satisfaction. Let them wonder. Then, a sharp voice cut through the chatter. What is this? The math teacher pushed through the students, his face darkening as he read the solution taped to his door. His eyes flicked up, scanning the hallway, and for a split second, they locked onto hers. She didn't flinch. At lunch, the whispers were louder than ever. I heard it was her. No way, that problem was impossible. Then why does the teacher look like he swallowed a lemon? The girl who had sat with her before plopped down, grinning. Okay, was that you? She hesitated, then gave the tiniest nod. Her friend's eyes widened. You're insane. I love it. But the victory felt fragile. Because now, the teacher knew for sure, she wasn't backing down. And neither was he. The next day, a printed notice appeared on the school bulletin board. Advanced Math Challenge, open to all students. Prize, scholarship consideration. At the bottom, in small letters, problems by Mr. Teacher's name. It wasn't a coincidence. It was a trap. And she was walking right into it. The Advanced Math Challenge notice might as well have had her name written on it in bold letters. Everyone in the hallway glanced between the board and her, some with curiosity, others with thinly veiled skepticism. The teacher had made his move, now it was her turn. Her friend nudged her. You're signing up, right? She hesitated. The whole thing smelled like a setup. The teacher probably designed problems specifically to trip her up, to prove she wasn't as smart as she seemed. But walking away would just confirm the rumors, that she was a fraud. Yeah, she said quietly. I'm signing up. The competition was scheduled for Friday after school. As the days passed, the whispers grew louder. Some students claimed the teacher had been staying late in his classroom, writing down problems no high schooler could solve. Others said the scholarship prize was fake, just bait to lure her into public failure. The night before the challenge, she sat cross-legged on her bedroom floor, surrounded by textbooks and scribbled notes. She'd spent every free moment preparing, but doubt gnawed at her. What if she couldn't do it? What if the teacher had stacked the deck against her? Her phone buzzed. Another anonymous message. Still think you're a genius? She threw the phone onto her bed. Friday arrived. The school auditorium was set up with rows of chairs and a single table at the front, draped with a white cloth. A small crowd had gathered, students, a few teachers, even the principal stood near the back, arms crossed. The math teacher stood beside the table, a folder in his hands. His expression was unreadable. 5 students had signed up, but everyone knew only one of them was the real target. The rules were simple, 3 problems. 30 minutes. No calculators. She took her seat at the table, back straight, pencil ready. The teacher's eyes met hers as he placed the first problem in front of her. Begin. The first problem was hard, but fair. She solved it in 7 minutes. The second was brutal, twisted logic, layers of calculus. Her pencil hovered, her mind racing. 12 minutes in, she cracked it. Then came the third. She froze. It wasn't just difficult, it was unfamiliar. A proof structure she'd never seen, symbols she didn't recognize. Her stomach dropped. This wasn't high school math. This wasn't even fair. A murmur rippled through the room. The teacher's lips twitched. She gripped her pencil tighter. Think. Then, slowly, she started writing. Not the solution. But a question of her own. Right there, beneath the problem, she wrote. This is a graduate-level theorem. Are you testing us, or just me? And then she stood up, pushed the paper toward the teacher, and walked out. The room erupted. The auditorium doors swung shut behind her, but the chaos inside followed like a storm. Shouts, gasps, the screech of chairs. She didn't look back. Her hands trembled, but her steps didn't falter. She'd played the teacher's game long enough. By Monday, the school was a war zone of gossip. Did you see his face when she called him out? That problem was totally unfair. Or maybe she just couldn't handle it. The principal's office summoned her during second period. Her stomach churned as she sat across from the stern woman, who steepled her fingers. Your teacher claims you were disrespectful. That you made accusations without proof. She met the principal's gaze. The problem wasn't from our curriculum. I can show you. That's not the point, the principal interrupted. There are ways to address concerns. Walking out isn't one of them. A knock at the door. The math teacher entered, his usual smugness replaced with something sharper, urgency. He barely glanced at her. We need to talk. Alone. The principal sighed. Wait outside. The girl lingered in the hallway, ear tilted toward the cracked door. Crossed a line, the teacher hissed. That problem was. I know what it was, the principal snapped. I checked. Were you trying to humiliate her? Silence. Then, quieter, you of all people should understand why I. Not here. The door swung open. The teacher stormed out, pale-faced. He froze when he saw her listening. For the first time, he looked afraid. That afternoon, a freshman boy cornered her at her locker. I have something you should see. He shoved a crumpled newspaper clipping into her hands before darting away. The article was old, yellowed. A photo showed a younger version of her teacher standing beside a trophy, his smile bright. The headline, Local Math Prodigy Loses Scholarship Amid Cheating Scandal. Her breath caught. Disqualified after accusations of stolen solutions. Suddenly, it made sense. The teacher hadn't just been testing her. He'd been haunted by her. The newspaper clipping burned in her hands. She read it 3 times, the words searing into her mind. Local math prodigy loses scholarship amid cheating scandal. Controversy erupted when rivals accused him of plagiarizing solutions from obscure academic journals. Everything clicked. The teacher's obsession with humiliating her. His fury when she solved impossible problems. The way he'd looked at her in the hallway, not just angry, but terrified. She wasn't just a student to him. She was his past staring back. The next morning, the school buzzed with a new energy. The freshman boy who'd given her the clipping wasn't the only one who'd dug up the story. Whispers slithered through the halls. He got caught cheating years ago. That's why he's so hard on everyone. He's scared she'll expose him again. The teacher's classroom was locked, lights off. A substitute handed out worksheets with a shrug. Mr. Name is out today. Her friend elbowed her at lunch. You've got him running. What are you gonna do? She folded the clipping into her pocket. Not sure yet. But that was a lie. She already knew. The principal called her in again after school. This time, the woman's sternness had cracks in it. I've spoken to Mr. Name. He's taking some time to reflect. A pause. This situation has been mishandled. The girl placed the wrinkled article on the desk. The principal's face fell. Where did you? Does it matter? Her voice was steadier than she felt. He's been punishing me for something he did. The principal exhaled slowly. What do you want to happen? That was the real question. She could demand an apology. A new teacher. Even his job. But revenge wasn't what she wanted. What she wanted was simpler. Just the truth, she said. The truth came faster than expected. By week's end, the teacher resigned. No assembly, no speech, just a quiet email to the staff. The official reason, personal leave. Everyone knew the real one. Some students cheered. Others pitied him. She just felt tired. Then, on her way home, she found an envelope taped to her locker. Inside, a single sheet of paper. "You were better than I ever was. Don't waste it." No signature. But she didn't need one. 1 year later, the girl walked across the stage to accept the statewide Math Excellence Award, her hands steady now where they used to shake. The auditorium erupted in applause, but her eyes flicked to the back row, where a familiar figure sat in shadows. The teacher. He looked different. No sharp-edged blazer, no smirk. Just a man in a plain sweater, clapping quietly. Their eyes met for a split second before he slipped out the exit. She'd wondered about him often this past year. After his resignation, rumors said he'd left town. Others claimed he was tutoring kids at the community center. The truth turned out to be simpler: he'd gotten help. Therapy for his anger. Real math tutoring work, no mind games, just teaching. The award ceremony program included a short bio about her. It mentioned overcoming academic challenges, but not his name. Some wounds didn't need salt. Backstage, a freshman reporter from the school paper cornered her. "Any advice for students with difficult teachers?" She almost smiled. "Some people are mirrors. They show you who you never want to become." The reporter blinked, scribbling furiously. "And sometimes," she added softly, "they show you who you could be, if you're not careful." That night, she unfolded the old note from her desk drawer. "You were better than I ever was. Don't waste it." For the first time, she wrote back. Just 3 words on a postcard mailed to the tutoring center address she'd looked up. "I won't. Thanks. No name needed." Some battles ended not with explosions, but with quiet understanding, and the choice to walk different paths.